What up YouTube? I've got another video for you guys today. I filmed this already before, but I usually have a lot of fans going on in the shop, so it made it really hard to hear because I'm a little further away from the camera. But basically this video is going to be on knife storage, what you can use depending on how large your collection is or where you're at as far as what stage of your knife collecting you're in. So just want to go over a couple of things that I went through as I was transitioning as to getting back into knives, all the way through the middle and to where I'm at now. So let me go ahead and get started. One of the ways you can choose to store your knives are in these little Velcro packs here. And when you first start off, if you got like 3 or 4 knives, these are pretty good. It's a pretty good way to store them there. It keeps them nice and safe, and you keep them organized. And I started off with this single 6-knife carry. Pretty simple. Opens up. I have balisongs in here right now, and they seem to store them very well. Now the spacing, the downfall of this is you're limited to 6 spots, and that the sleeves for these guys are about a little over 2.5 inches long, which will accommodate most folders. But what ends up happening is if you have a bunch of larger folders, as these start to accumulate more space, if you have a 2.5, or let's say a wide folder here and then a wide folder next to it, then these pockets start to get a little tighter, so you couldn't do 6 of the same wide folder in there because it simply wouldn't slide in there. It's just only wide enough. But for the majority of the knives that are out there, this will work fine. Another limitation is for if you have a larger folder. I believe this can hold up to a knife close that's about right around 5 inches or so. You can go a little longer than that, but the more you get in there, the harder, and these knives, if they extend further out, the harder it's going to be to close this Velcro and get it to line up here. So that's one of its downfalls. So basically, it only 6 knife limitation. The pockets are your average size, so some knives may not fit in there, and the thicker the knife or the wider the knife, the more of those style knives you have in these packs, the harder it's going to be to actually get them to fit and for the top to close. But it's a pretty cool, inexpensive solution. They're about $5 or so, $6. If you hunt around, you can get a really good deal on them. And most of the time, they're like your no-name. They don't have a brand stitched on there or whatever. And if you go that way, they're a little cheaper. So they can be found. I don't know exactly what I don't remember exactly what I paid for it, but I know it wasn't any more than like $6 or $7. So anyway, that was fine for me in the beginning. I had a few knives, wanted them protected, and basically that seemed to work out well for me. But as I started getting more knives, the 6 slots weren't enough. I had a bunch of stuff laying around. I'm kind of particular on how I take care of my knives and how I store them. I needed something bigger. Went with the same route, same Velcro configuration, same type of deal there. As you can see how the Velcro's not closing up all the way? Well, because this thing is filled with knives. And the difference between this one and that one is now you have a 12 knife capacity. These are just all balisongs in here. Everything's filled up, but as you can see, how I mentioned before, one of its downfalls is the pockets. If you start filling up with wider knives, it's harder for them to slide in there, and then when you go ahead and close them up, it makes it harder to go ahead and close this Velcro down. So that's one thing to consider. If you have average sized knives, you're not going to run into an issue, and it's going to be fine. But you can hold 12 in here, and it's a good way to, as your collection grows, you start to get more, you can protect them, and they're really easy. These have the M-Tech on there, and these just so happen to be the cheapest ones I found at the time. I actually was looking around a month or so ago, and they had plain ones with no name on it whatsoever that were a little bit more inexpensive than this. And these are about right around the $8 to $10 range. I've had a few in the past. You can see I had 2 of them. So that worked out. So now I had my 6-slot one and another 12-slot, 18 knives. No big deal. So as you start to move in, and maybe this may be a great way to store them. Just a bunch of these. Get certain brands or certain styles of knives in each one, and that way you can kind of organize it, catalog your knives, do what you need to do, and they're well protected. Another thing you can move on, let's say your collection gets bigger, is I found this bag too. It's a little dusty. I had to pull it down from where I had it stashed. And this is pretty cool knife carry. You can carry a whole bunch of stuff in this. It's got a Velcro pocket on the outside, a smaller one there. And basically this is probably something like, let's say if you were going to a knife show or something, or to a gun show and you had stuff with you, going to another knife enthusiast's house and you wanted to bring your stuff together, it works well. Basically it unzips, and now your capacity's a lot bigger. They sell these just with the pockets on the inside or on the outside openings, and then they have a velcro one where you can add 1 to even more pages of knives in there. And these are really nice and padded, a lot more padded than the other ones. They're fully sleeved so the knives don't rattle against each other. And the cool thing about this is the center, these pockets are a little bit more wide, a little wider, so you can fit bigger folders in there, and you can hold a lot more. So we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you got 6, 12, and then the center holds 5 on each side. So you're looking at 26 knives that you can have in here. Not to mention you can go ahead and put a couple fixed blades laying in here. I went ahead and when I would carry it, I just have this all filled up and then started putting these guys in here. And the cool thing about this is when it's closed, it gives you a little. So I was able to fit this filled completely with knives and these filled completely with knives and close this up and have all my knives in one thing. So let's say like I have my shop set up here, but I don't usually keep all my knives out here. So what I do is when I was done messing around the shop, I'd load them all up in here and walk inside, and they were safe and sound inside. So that could be another option. Now these right here are about 20 bucks or so, maybe a little bit more expensive. Knifezilla's got one with a cool little knife logo that's patched in there. You can get the plain Jane ones. A lot of people manufacture this same style. I think it's one company that makes them, and then different companies will buy these and have their logo embroidered on there, or patch put on there. But this is another way you can store your stuff. And it worked well for me for a while when I started getting a bunch of these sleeves and then filled this up. It worked great. But it was kind of I was always kind of trying to reach in, trying to remember where exactly they were. It took me a while to get to the knives, and it was kind of a little bit of a problem for me. Not really a problem, but it took longer to figure out where stuff was, and I couldn't really organize it how I wanted to. So I was trying to find another solution. And what I ended up with going with next is a Spyderco Spidey pack. This is probably, if you're getting, if you have a few knives, if you're a full-fledged enthusiast, you know, once you get into it and get bit by the knife bug, you're going to end up getting a bunch of knives. And this is probably the best way, I feel, to store your knives for me right now. And basically because the Spider packs come in 2 configurations. They have a 30 knife capacity configuration and I think an 18 knife capacity configuration. I'm not sure if it's 18 or a little more, but I went ahead and jumped right to the 30 and didn't bother with the 18 knife configuration because I had more knives, and you know, the price between the Spyderco 18 and the 30 are so close that for the extra $5 or $6 you might as well go for the bigger one, even though you'll never, if you don't ever fill it, then oh well, at least you have the, you know, the possibility, you know, when you get more knives, you have a place to put them. And one of the cool things about this before I open it up is these come with these D-rings up at the top and a carry. And what worked out good for me is when I was doing my knife reviews or overlooks on the channel, and or just doing scale work and need stuff for reference, I would have I have 3 of these, and I would have them on my pegboard 1, 2, and 3, and had them opened up. And that way I had all my knives visible. And let me open this up. It's a good quality, well-made case there. It's a little dirty. Velcro strips all the way everywhere you could possibly need it. Little tabs right there. And I'm not going to fold this completely out, but I think you'll get a good idea of how she looks by me just doing this. Let's flip this back out of the way. So basically, the big difference between this, the way of storing knives in this, as opposed to here, is now you have clear windows to see exactly what you have in there. And you know, I store my knives by brand. So I got a row of CRKTs. I have an extra slot here for a prospective knife or CRKT knife that I'm thinking about getting. So you know, and this opens up. So the first row I believe holds, we're looking at 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. The second row holds 2, 4, 6, 7. And the third row also holds 7, but the last row holds 8 again. And like I said, when it's hanging up in front of you, I can see all the knives that I have, and then go ahead and be able to pick and pull from. If I'm doing a review, and let's say I want to do You know, I've got a knife that you guys never heard of, and you're wondering, well, you know, is it that big of a carry? Well, I can go ahead and pull a knife. Well, here's a Tenacious. Pretty common knife. Everybody's got Tenacious. I can pull it right there and do a size reference right then and there. You know, you just look up, or if I'm talking about a knife and it reminds me of another knife that I have, I could pull that one out and I can show you different stuff. Or if I'm doing scale work on one or doing some work on another, and you know, I just need something for reference, I could always pull the knife down. So that's why this right here is ultimately what I'm doing now. But I don't have them hanging up because of dust in the shop anymore. I've kind of put them in a little cubby, and then I access each spider pack depending on what I need there. And there's other ways you can store your knives. You can go ahead and, when you get to this point where you're actually filling up, you know, these giant spider packs that hold 30, you may want to, and you're moving into higher end custom, something that needs to be really protected, something you carry around with you. A lot of guys switch and go to the Pelican cases with the little cubes you can pull out, and they can store a crap load of knives in there, and they're super protected. It's a nice hard case. I don't travel with my knives at all or anything, so this seems to work fine with me. Another alternative would be too is to, if you go to your home improvement stores, a lot of times you'll have these plastic cases that are meant to store and organize hardware. So sometimes you'll have the ones that are kind of have the square cutouts that are about the size of a knife that's you know, folded. And I've seen guys store their knives in there, especially when you have the little slot. You can customize the slot configurations to fit whatever. And I know guys that do that. Maybe put you know, put terry cloth on the bottom of it and store their knives in there, and that way they can open it up, they can see everything there, open up the box, and that's an inexpensive way to go ahead and store your knives. So that's pretty much what I've gone through now. Now, and one other thing too is if you guys aren't into, let's say if you're the type of guy that's like, you're a knife enthusiast, but you don't really carry more than 4 or 5 knives because you don't feel the need. You know why carry, or why have 30 knives if you can only use one at a time, and a lot of them just end up sitting? Well, basically what I found recently is I was going through secondhand stores, and I found a jewelry case, and it was a men's jewelry case that was meant to hold watches and your whatevers. So, and I ended up picking this up right here for like $6. It's a really cool box. Opens up. I got a couple Zippos up top. I can keep my my camera, tack light, you know, real stuff that I need convenient. And this is what I use for my EDC rotation. And I keep this in the shop, and I also put new knives that I get in there. Let's say if I get them and I want to keep using them and stuff to kind of see how they fare. I've got different drawers. This drawer right here is just a flat out open drawer. It's got a couple of the new knives I've acquired, custom knife I did, or a modified knife I did, plus a custom sitting there. The next drawer down, that same drawer is split in half. I've got a couple large folders here that haven't really found a home in my spider pack yet, because I usually once a month I'll go through and I'll reconfigure everything, clean the knives, and I'll kind of reorganize stuff if it's a little out of order. So these guys haven't made their way into a spider pack. The bottom drawer has 4 slots that fit any size folder in there, and it's just really organized for me. And these are the knives that I've been messing with. I always have a balisong in there because I like to flip a balisong if I'm watching YouTube videos or whatever in the shop or messing around. And a couple of stuff of my EDC rotation or stuff that I will be working on shortly. So that's another thing. You can go in there and maybe go to a secondhand store, find a cool little jewelry box to go ahead and store your stuff. It looks a lot better on your nightstand as opposed to maybe a drawer filled with, you know, with these Cordura cases or whatever. Maybe that'll work for you. I mean, you can hold about 10 knives in there maybe, so it's nice. You can probably, you know, if you have your collection smaller, you like to keep your collection small, it's probably a really good solution for you. So I just thought I'd bring all this stuff to your attention here. I kind of, you know, like I said, I've gotten to the point where you know, I have a lot more stuff now, and I have to keep things organized. I'm starting to kind of go through and sell off a lot of stuff because I'm getting into other stuff, but I usually, like in my shop, I have like little hidden cubby here that I store my stuff in, and basically this is how I keep my stuff organized in the shop. And I didn't used to do this, but my shop has become more secure than it ever has. I've kind of updated the security here, and that way I don't have to worry about this stuff being out here. That way I don't have to transfer stuff inside and out. And this is just something I did. You know, if you walk in there, sometimes, you know, most people don't even know there's a cubby in there. So that's kind of how I store that there. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Just thought I'd give you a rundown of how I store my knives and ideas for you guys to store your knives. And I'm probably going to do a couple more videos of how I organize my knife care stuff, so it's easy for me to get in and out of. I do a lot of knife stuff, whether it's doing custom scales to custom work here in the shop. So I'm going to start doing more videos of ideas I've got to organize Torx heads and how I keep everything nice and organized. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys got any solutions to your knife storage that I haven't said anything or haven't brought up in the video, please put it down in the comments. That way, you know, maybe some of these some of the ways I've shown you guys today may not be the perfect way for most guys, and if you've got something different, they'll read in the comments and they'll find a cool way to go ahead and store their knives, or a video response to it. That would be cool too, to actually see how you guys store your knives. So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the responses, you know, subs, all that stuff. Take it easy. Peace.